everyone. My name is Ejibola and I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, and into a humble family. And growing up, I just was that child that was always curious. I wanted to be everything, literally everything. At that time, I didn't have a word for it. One day I wanted to be a doctor. The next day I wanted to be the next J.K. Rowling. And I was also very captivated by being a business tycoon. In those days, that's what it was called, the business tycoon. You know, I know my parents used to be like, come on, just choose one thing, you know. But I think now I have the word for it. I actually was a polymath. I was really interested in just various things. And but growing up, I just always thought you had to be one and you couldn't be everything, you know. So did I imagine being here where I am when I was did I imagine I could be? Absolutely, I was a dreamer. I dreamt of being all kinds of things growing up. I remember specifically, I think I was probably in junior high, maybe not younger elementary, but like older elementary. And I remember a woman coming to my home and she was talking to my mom, and she said, she was like a prophetic person, and she looked at me and she told my mom, she was like, this is your daughter, she doesn't belong here. She's gonna go abroad and she's gonna go and do something great, you know. And I was probably like maybe 9, 8, I'm not sure. As a child, I was always a dreamer. I was always curious. I was that person that my parents were. I wanted to be a lawyer today. I wanted to be a doctor tomorrow. It's like, choose one, you know. But I know now for a fact that you can be everything and anything you want to be, you know. And I know I've dabbled into all kinds of industries, and I'm very proud to be able to do all of that. And it's a great opportunity, but I got to this point because I continued to push myself, you know, to be that person I wanted to be, the person that I could leave a legacy for my kids and my kids could be proud of. And so I definitely didn't doubt that I could be here today. As a little girl, I just always dreamed, even though I was born into a humble family, I saw beyond my physical, you know, and that's why your dreams are valid. Your dreams are certainly valid.
Hello everyone, my name is Efua Akinsipe, and as a little girl, I had very big dreams. At first, I thought I wanted to be a doctor like my dad. And then I thought I was going to be a nurse like my mom. And then I thought I would be an astronaut one day and go to space, or maybe fly a plane as a pilot. So I had very vivid imaginations as a child, and I could create like a lot of realities in my head. I lived in my head a lot because I was very introspective, even from my childhood. But eventually, as I continued my journey, I found that I was leaning more toward the arts per se. I love to write. I love to read a lot. You know, I loved writing poetry, for example. Surprise. But I followed that trajectory, and then I eventually went to school for public relations and advertising. I did that for a little bit, and then I made a pivot to human resources management, which I made a career out of. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, I decided to try my hands, surprisingly, in business, and followed one of my passions and started a business for myself. So I feel like my life has just really been an intricate weave of different parts of my story into one big whole. I mean, it's still coming together, it's still becoming. But when I look back on my story and where I am today, I don't think I could have imagined really where I am today. I feel like things have just happened progressively in a natural order, I would say, to lead me to where I am at this point as not only an author, but I'm still in the HR space, and then now interior design. So it's just a really beautiful mix of a lot of things, a lot of expressions of myself that I love. So yeah, I couldn't really have envisioned where I am today, because maybe as a child I was just thinking of this as a one focus thing, right? But now I feel God has taken my story and all the different expressions of myself, and it's starting to come together really beautifully. And I couldn't have imagined this because it's way beyond anything I could have dreamt about. I feel like God has taken my story and, created it in such a way that it's for a greater purpose.
My name is Ejibola Taiwo. I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. My mom had 9 kids. I'm the 5th and the 2nd girl. Growing up, I wanted to be a banker. And why was that? I had an uncle who would always come to our house, all suited up, looking so professional. I loved it. One day he asked me what I wanted to become, and I told him I wanted to become like him. I wanted to be a banker. So he took me to First Bank, where he was one of their executives. I loved the office. Very spacious, very big, with lots of staff attending to him. So I just wanted to be like him. So in primary school, I did all I could to be the best, and that got me the Gifted Child Award. I went to Grace Children's School, and that was the best year of my growing up, because my understanding there was I needed to be the very best to get to where I wanted to be. So having the Gifted Child Award certificate given to me prompted me to go to a secondary school that would shape my life. I went to Eva Delaja Girls Secondary Grammar School, where I started learning leadership skills, and I became one of the prefects when I was in my high school, senior high school. When I got to the university, I still continued with my leadership skill. I became the editor-in-chief for the banking and finance department. And this was because of my exposure to the Central Bank of Nigeria and everything that I learned from my uncle. I started the editorial board, and I had a team of people that were working for the department in making sure that we had good magazines rolled out for every student. Before I left university, I knew everything that I needed to have in order to become the banker. I knew I had to have good grades. I knew I had to, become a chartered banker. So in my 2nd year, I actually registered, became a chartered banker. By the time I was done university, I was ready for that dream company of mine, IBTC, but I never got in. But I got another job instead. I got to work at the West African Capital Market School, where I had to start the pilot project on training the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We had a partnership collaboration with Business Morning with Bosin Omafaye, where he gets to lecture students on TV, and they go online to answer all the class quizzes and do their tests. It was quite different, something so unique in Nigeria at that time. I grew that project for 4 years before deciding to move to Kakawa Asset Management as an investment analyst. And I further grew my finance, investment, and banking skills at Kakawa Asset Management. Then I decided to go for my master's, and I chose Canada. I went to Dalhousie University for my master's in development economics. While at Dalhousie, I studied so hard to finish my courses in 1 year. And why was that? I wanted to start working as soon as possible. So after completing my courses in 1 year, I found that the same level of job I was doing in Nigeria, an investment analyst role, was needed at MD Funds Management in Ottawa. I applied on a Sunday, and on Monday, I received an email for an interview for Wednesday. I flew down, had the interview on Wednesday, thinking of traveling back to Halifax on Friday, but I was called back, given a letter of appointment to start the following Monday. And that was how I started working in Canada, even before finishing university. And by the time I was done my 1 year with MD Funds Management, I bought my first home in Canada at the age of 29, even before I finished completing my master's at Dalhousie. It was a great achievement for me. It was absolutely phenomenal. And I thought, yes, this is the start to my being a Canadian banker. I got to work at CIBC as a financial advisor. I worked there in Ottawa, downtown, the branch close to the Parliament Hill. And it was quite amazing how I get to see the then former Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, come into the branch to do banking transaction. That showed me another level of Canadian life, how even leaders could carry themselves in no lesser than a citizen and just be themselves. And afterwards, we relocated to Grand Prairie. I continued my banking with CIBC downtown. Then I moved to Scotiabank until I rose to the level of a senior commercial banker. Then my level of thought in regards to entrepreneurship started changing, and there was a wake-up moment from my elder sister who told me that there was so much to me than finance, numbers, accounting, that I should try to spread my wings and be all that I could be. Then I started looking inwards. Then I discovered the creative side of myself. And I started designing my leather bags and selling the leather bags at the boutique. One day, some colleagues of mine got to see my leather bags at one of the boutiques, and they were quite surprised that a banker could also have that kind of passion outside of banking. I continued on this line, and then I wanted to scale up the business. I needed a loan. I went to the bank across the street with my business plan in hand, thinking I had the best of plan to present. But when I got there, the lady in question never bothered to open the business plan. She just looked at the business name and said I didn't have target markets in Canada, and she wasn't sure I could get the loan. I was shocked. I was surprised. Being a banker myself, I wouldn't attend to client that way. So I put my badge on. She, realizing that I'm a fellow banker, busted into tears. But guess what? That was the beginning of greatness for me, because that showed me that entrepreneurs in Canada weren't getting the kind of support they should get that would encourage them to build businesses that would thrive. And I was thinking, is it just me, or do we have more women like that being rejected of credit to build their businesses? I went back to my desk, and that day I started searching for organizations that were actually serving Black women or people of color or immigrant, and I never got to see one. That day I decided I was going to make that change. I searched for an entrepreneurship job, and I noticed they were looking for a coordinator for the Regional Innovation Network in Grand Prairie that would also double as an entrepreneur in residence at the then Grand Prairie Regional College. I applied. 2 weeks after that, I left banking. My dream, I left banking, yes, for the job. And that was the beginning. I started learning about the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Canada. That was the same year that the then Minister for Small Business, Mary Ng, introduced the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy. And that was the year they also put together the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, WEC. And the college was invited to that launch in Calgary. I represented the college. That gave me a bigger exposure to every ecosystem partner in Canada. I got to meet and mingle and network with a lot of organizations that were supporting women entrepreneurs. That was the same year that we created the We Also in Heels, which we later renamed the Sedulous Women Leaders. 2 years into working with the college and the GP reign, I decided I wanted to go full-time to manage my personal business, Simply Ejibola, and to also manage the Sedulous Women Leaders. So I left and became a full-time self-employed and a consultant. So I started consulting and training, coaching entrepreneurs under my banner, Sedulous Women Leaders. And I became a consultant to business owners who needed more services under my banner, Simply Ejibola Consulting. And my Simply Ejibola Stationaries and Self-Care and Wellness was also there for me to run and manage. So this definitely wasn't the direction I dreamt about when I was growing up. But sometimes it's good for you to just spread your wings and allow yourself to just dream freely. When you dream, you discover some hidden skills and talent that you never knew you had. I never knew I was creative. My other 8 siblings were in sciences. We had 2 architects, we had 3 engineers, we had 2 doctors, and they practically owned their own clinic or engineering firm or architectural firm. And I thought they were more creative. I never knew I had that DNA also in me. And that was quite fascinating. Honestly, I'm enjoying this entrepreneurship journey because it gives me an opportunity to become more. I dream of a particular project or an idea, and the next minute, another idea pops up in my head. And I'm loving that feeling. There is a difference between you just being in your own bubble of one particular dream or desire, which was how I was growing up, thinking banking and finance was the only thing for me. But now, I view life differently. As a girl, dream big, bigger than your fears, because you know what? You've got lots of support systems out there in the world that can help you shape that thought, that can help you shape that idea and make it tangible so that you can live the best life you ever or would ever dream of. So, I'm an entrepreneur and I live here in Edmonton and I'm loving it.
I think one of the pivotal moments for me was when I realized that everything was possible, that the life that I was dreaming about was possible. I started to see it. I started to visualize. I started to see that it was possible. And I was like, okay, wait, there's been so many God incidences in my life that I couldn't just take them as ordinary coincidences. I had to start to look at these God incidences and be like, oh, wait a moment. Like that was God's hand over there. Oh, this didn't just happen coincidentally. So when I realized and I started to bring my story together and I started to investigate more, I knew that there was something there. The pivotal moment was when I decided to surrender it all, because I realized that I was holding on to all these dreams. I was holding on to everything and, trying to work it out in my own strength, trying to be calm in my own way. But then I realized that there was a greater hand. I didn't need to do it by myself. So that pivotal moment happened when I surrendered everything. I mean, in totality. I wasn't holding little bits back to myself. And I fully surrendered to God and I said, hey, you know what, God, let's do this thing together. It's either I'm all in with God for this journey, for the long haul, or I'm all out. I couldn't be 1 foot in and I couldn't be 1 foot out. So I think that was very pivotal for me when I really aligned my core to my faith.
I moved to Canada 13 years ago from Lagos, Nigeria, and before I moved to Canada, I'd worked in a bank for a few years. And I remember just getting tired, and I'm like, there has to be more to life than this. For me, it was an opportunity to start afresh. It was an opportunity to just push that reset button and achieve those dreams that had always been on my mind. And I remember the first time I laid my foot on this soil, and because there's a power of affirmation. I know that people call it affirmation, but I call it the word of God, the scriptures. And as I laid my foot upon the soil, I started to speak the word of God. I said, the Bible says that wheresoever the sole of my feet tread, there will I possess. I started to speak the word of God. I started to make affirmations, whatever the world calls it. And I also wrote a 5-year plan. I wrote a 5-year plan because the Bible says, write the vision and make it plain. And people call it journaling as well. I like how, there's just all kinds of words that we give to things that we've always known from the scriptures. But hey, I wrote a 5-year plan. And one of my plans was I wanted to be a part of my community. I wanted to be able to give back to my community. I wanted to be a part of the fabric, because this was a home. This was our home that we're raising our kids. And I wanted to make it our home. Yes, I was an immigrant, but for me it was important to be a part of the community I was living in, being a part of the fabric, and just give back, basically. And so I think just the pivotal moment for me was when I immigrated here. I saw the opportunity to achieve those dreams I'd always thought about. I saw the opportunity to not be stuck in a 9-to-5 job that's defined me. I saw the opportunity to take my story and make it my own, and not allow the world or my experiences give meaning to my story. I decided to take that story and make it my story and tell it the way I wanted to tell it. Pivotal moment was one when I immigrated to Canada. It was an opportunity to just push that reset button and start to actualize those dreams. Because guess what? If we leave those dreams in the dream states, guess what? It continues to be a dream, right? But we have to take actions and make steps to implement those dreams so that it can become a reality. Second time was when I decided to run for city council. I was literally still a new immigrant, right, in Canada. But the reason I was able to do that and be brave enough to, in fact, I was watching the video of our debates when I first got on council in 2017. I just stumbled on the video and I'm like, wow. Saskatchewan is a great community, but I think we can do much more. And inflation is crucial to our city's growth. I want to have that conversation. I want to see post-secondary education for our youth, specialized long-term care. You were so brave! Because I was, first of all, the only Black person out of 15 people running. And I would just like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. And I think determination and just dreaming and just knowing that God wanted me to do this was what really pushed me. And so those were the two pivotal moments for me when I knew that, look, my dreams are valid. I can do whatever I want to do. I can be whatever I want to be. All I need to do is pray and work hard. End of story.
The particular point in my life where I realized I was up to something was when I got rejected at the other bank. It gave me a feeling of rejection. However, it made me curious, and my curiosity got me to where I am today. So, looking back on my journey of starting the Sedulous Women Leaders with the hope of getting services, the tools, resources that would help me to grow Simply Ejibola Stationery, I was also impacting other women. And the more I impact and bring up projects that would help us to grow, the more I saw outcomes that was tangible, to the extent that we had to start keeping data of all our projects, and we documented, and it has now become reference point in the state of women entrepreneurship in Canada 2024-2025, presented to the Minister for Small Business. I know I'm up to something, but I'm not gotten there yet, because the dream is bigger now, quite bigger, that I'm scared sometimes to even share my idea. And sometimes when I share, people just don't get it. But I know that with the kind of dedication, confidence, and relentlessness that is in me, I will eventually get to that point of satisfaction where I can say I've done everything to become, because I'm still becoming, I'm still exploring, I'm still discovering who this little girl Ejibola is. Every day I discover a new version of myself. Every day my daughter tells me, "Mom, chill. You've got to chill now. It's a lot." I want to spread my wings in such a way that when I'm gone, I leave a legacy of remembrance where everyone will say, Ejibola impacted so many entrepreneurs in Canada. Ejibola introduced this particular program that got women into the big box stores. Because our award-winning project right now, the Rib Eye Launcher product, has made waves. In the last 20 months, we've gotten 19 women into the big box store, and that is huge, but it can be bigger. We want more women product in the big box store, and that is what I'm hoping to achieve.
I feel like motherhood didn't just shift my perspective. I feel like it expanded me. There are things now that I could never have dreamt I had the capacity for. I'm a soft girl babe. Like, I don't like, I'm just I like the soft girl life. And I just always, my mom knows me. She always says, oh my God, like when I was growing up, I didn't like stress. Anything that stressed me just wasn't for me. And motherhood shifted me completely, turned me 360 degrees and on my head, if I can say that. When I had my first child, I don't know what I was expecting, but it was just a lot. I didn't even know that I had the capacity to take care of another human being. I'm like, I'm not done taking care of myself. Wait a moment. But I've just seen how I've shifted from baby 1 to baby 2, and now child 3. And it's a whole, sometimes I feel like I don't even recognize myself. I feel like it really grew my capacity, even in my career. Like, I had to expand, because now I wasn't just living my single life and just doing my career and doing my own thing. I had a work life, I had a home life, so I had to figure out a way to merge all of these expressions, right? And the one thing that I would say is it forced me to redefine, what success looked like for me. For me, I didn't just want to succeed in an office somewhere in my career, and I was doing great and getting promotions and, just doing great. I realized very quickly that wasn't all that mattered to me. It mattered to me that when I came home, I had a support system. I had a family that was grounded, rooted. It mattered for me that when I came home, I had balanced, well-regulated children. It really mattered for me. So I felt like I couldn't really drop one for the other. So I had to expand and fit them all in there. So I feel like motherhood, honestly, like it made me a better career person. and also made me a better mom, if that makes any sense, because it forced me to organize my life so that nothing was falling through the cracks. So I can confidently say, like now with baby 3, like my capacity has expanded, and you don't realize this until you look back on your journey and you're like, oh wow, who could have thought I could have handled 2 kids under the age of 3, you know, and juggling like a career move or a new job and something else, you know, who would have thought? But it really just expanded my capacity. It didn't just shift my purpose. I think it deepened my capacity to be able to function and express myself even better. I surprised myself because now I realized that there's so much more that I can handle, and that came from motherhood.
Motherhood is a gift. Motherhood is a blessing, and it's a very interesting journey. I had my child, my daughter, who is 15 years now, while I was working at MD Funds Management. And the day I got to meet her, my life changed. It changed because everything I desire, every little dream of mine had to be wrapped around her, wrapped around our growing, wrapped around our schooling, wrapped around our extracurricular activity. I don't make decisions without considering her first. Even right now, relocating to a new city in Edmonton, the first thing we did, or that I did as a mom, was to make sure that my business hours and my business activity do not disturb our integrating well into school. So as a mom, there is a lot that goes into you building a brand, growing a business, and wanting to take care of the home. Alongside that, I'm a mentor to my child. I mentor her, she looks up to me for advice, for decisions. She sees the way I carry myself professionally. I see that in her own leadership skills too. And I see the way she's beginning to understand the business life and how to balance that with family. She's got her own schedule, and we discuss that as a family into my schedule and her dad's schedule for our everyday activity. She's number one for me. Like, she's my first business before the other businesses. And I believe I've done a good job thus far in bringing her up. We are very close. She tells me everything. I tell her she knows practically everything about my 3 businesses. She gives me advice also. You know, I consider her as part of my staff. She's my 0.5. So when people ask me, how many staff do you have? I tell them we are 2.5. The 0.5 is my daughter, because the input from her really helps me when I'm making decisions regarding the kiddies' stationaries and writing material. I don't think I could ever build Simply Ejibola stationery the way I've built it without my daughter's input. And that's because of the love and the bond and the communication and the relationship we share every day. I treasure that. I treasure, and I'm blessed to have her.
Motherhood is such a powerful thing. It's something that's so deep that just changes you. It doesn't just change you physically, but motherhood changes your person, your personality. It makes you more of an empath, right? It makes you compassionate, and this actually shows up for me everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, like even in my jobs, on council, in my business, I always lead with compassion, right? Like there are times, like, especially as a city councillor, you need to make really tough decisions, very tough decisions. But I still live with compassion even in those scenarios. And so definitely motherhood has just made me really anchored. It has made me very empathetic. It has made me realize that you can nurture potential. In fact, I'm going to share this. Last night, I was just talking to my daughter, Tammy, and I'm like, Tammy, so do you think that you're loved? She was like, oh yes, I'm loved. I'm like, why do you think you're loved? She was like, because I'm a gift to the world. And I'm like, oh my God. Now, I wrote a book called I Am a Gift, and it was about my daughter. And the fact that she actually just used those exact words, I'm just like, girl, you're doing something here, So I'm just, motherhood has just made me an empath, like I said. I'm not a very emotional person, but I feel like motherhood has just made me a bit more emotional. It's made me more in touch with my feelings. I always feel like I've always been that strong boss lady, and that's where I was raised. That's where I've always been. I was someone that's very tough, emotional. You won't see me cry. I could cry for a movie, but just like general life things. Even when my mom passed, I actually didn't cry, So, but motherhood has just taught me to be a bit more empathetic, to be a bit more in the present, Because a lot of times, because I'm very ambitious, you can easily just not enjoy the present and just be looking for that next goal. But just even enjoy the present, just enjoy, breathe, smell the flowers, breathe, enjoy the present and enjoy the relationships and just conversations. And that's definitely changed me. So yeah, motherhood is the absolute best. And being a mom of a daughter is even much better. I can tell you that for free.
For me, there is nothing like a balanced life. Because when you're a mom, you're an entrepreneur, you're a wife, it's hard to actually say you balance everything. And why do I say that? When you give attention to one role, the other suffers a little bit. And what do I mean? When you give your all to be a mom, the role of being a wife and being an entrepreneur will have to relax a little bit just because you're giving your all as a mom. So when I have challenges that actually affect my three roles as a wife, a mom, and a business owner, I mostly, first of all, make sure I get a good rest. And after that, I listen to my music or watch my movies, something to make me laugh, something to make me relax, something to distract me from the challenges or the barriers. But guess what? I still need to always rely on people that I regard as role models, mentors, advisors, particularly my strongest support system, who is my husband, is always the first person I take challenges to. I'll give you a particular instance. Moving from Grand Prairie to Edmonton, I signed a 4-year lease at my space in Grand Prairie, but I never read the details of the lease completely. That by the time we were moving to Edmonton, breaking the lease will cost me over $50,000. That was devastating. That was a lot of money. Of course, I ran to my support system, which is my husband, and he told me the plain truth of where I made the error, why I made the error, and got myself into that kind of challenge and situation. I was heartbroken. I cried. I wasn't disappointed he said those things because they were true. I should have known better. But then that made me to go back to the drawing board, re-strategize on how do I deal with this situation and get out of it. But I'm here today. I'm still surviving. I thought that challenge was going to drown me. I thought that challenge was going to affect the business. But I'm here. We're still thriving. We're growing. And I'm glad I went through challenges like that. Because guess what? It's part of my growing. It's part of my becoming. It's part of the Ejibola you see today. It's part of the success you read about me. Because success without the challenges can never make you to be that relentless and phenomenal. And I'm grateful for the challenges. I know there are more to come as I grow and I scale. But I'm sure that I would get that same support at that time to be the greatest that I ever want to be.
You know what? The way that I've been able to balance it is, I don't know if there's truly a balance. I feel like it's a delicate balance to do motherhood, to do your individual self, to chase your dreams, to be a wife, a friend, a daughter, and all of these things. There's so many things that we are, and we absolutely have permission to be all of these things. But you know what? I think the first thing for me was being able to define, you know, what success was for the world, how the world defines success versus how God defines success. I needed to figure that out. And as soon as I knew what that was, it made it easier. And the second thing I'll say is that you need to know yourself. It ties into what I said. When you know yourself, you know what you're graced for. You understand yourself, you understand your flow, you understand your rhythm. So you know when you're burning out, you know when you need a break, you know when you need a breather. But if you don't know yourself, you're just going to be acting out all these things and everything is just going to be all jumbled up. So I think for me, the best thing that happened to me to create this balance was to know myself first, was to rediscover myself. As soon as I knew myself, I knew what my capacities were, I knew what my shortfalls were, I knew what my flaws were. Like seriously, when I find myself like being snappy at my kids, I'm like, okay, Efua, you haven't had enough sleep. You're running on fumes at this point. You can't pour from an empty cup. You need to take a break so that you can give better to your kids, so that you can give a better version of yourself to your husband, so you can, you know, show up at work and you're ready to go. So knowing yourself really matters, knowing your shortfalls, knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, and then it helps you navigate all of the things that you need to navigate. And another thing is knowing when to say no, and just knowing everything can't always just happen. Something has to give for something else, right? So maybe I can't be at that work dinner because I have to be at my daughter's recital, and it matters, you know, because I'm going to have that child with me forever. At work, I'm replaceable. You know what I mean? So I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect balance to any of your expressions as a mother or as a wife or whatever it is that you're doing. I think it's just finding that delicate dance of knowing what your priorities are and what the expectations are, and how to essentially intertwine those two things for a good outcome. So best thing I can say is knowing yourself, knowing when I'm stretched too thin. It's like, I'm so sorry, girls, I can't come out for that girls' night out because I really need to catch some sleep, or maybe I need to watch a movie with my kids because they haven't seen me all week, or we haven't really I haven't filled their cups this week. So it's just finding what are your priorities and how can you balance those expectations for a great outcome at any point in time.
I think, first of all, I'm not afraid to ask for help. I always ask for help. Honestly, I know I can't do it all. I'm just one person. It's just 24 hours in a day. That's all we have. I'm not afraid, number one, to ask for help. And number two, and this is the most important thing I want to leave here, is I'm not afraid to make mistakes. I give myself a lot of grace to make mistakes. And if I make a mistake, I learn from it and I pick myself up and I get up and go. There's no one that's beyond mistakes. We all make mistakes, and we just need to give ourselves grace. And that's important. And to give yourself grace, give other people grace as well. I immigrated to Canada in 2012. I married the love of my life and moved to be with him here. 5 years after, I sat on council. I ran against 15 people. I had the third highest votes out of 15. I was the only black person, the youngest person. The government has said that if you're 5 years and under, you're a new immigrant, basically. So I was technically still a new immigrant, still trying to figure out things, you know, here. And here was I sitting on council, making decisions that would impact 30, 40, 50 years.
Committed to fostering reconciliation through relationship building, knowledge gathering, and
just sitting on that table and having all this information, honestly, it was like drinking water out of a fire hose, because number one, there were just so many layers. as a new city councillor, there's a lot of things you need to learn. Then put on top of that a new immigrant, that you're still trying to even learn the culture and learn the things that are going on around you. So there's just a lot going on for me. But I didn't let that deter me. I still showed up. I still went for my meetings. I still, had those conversations. And there were times I kept quiet. I didn't have anything to say, and it was okay. I give myself grace for that. Like I might not have anything to say. If I have something to say, I'll speak. But I was just a lot of learning. And then this was in 2017. By 2019, I decided to start a fashion business. I'm a deeply spiritual person. I said I was going to pray about it, and I felt like the Lord was saying, start a fashion business. So I started a fashion business, registered it in 2019. Sorry, registered it in 2020, early 2020, and had the amazing opportunity to go and show in New York Fashion Week 3 months after. As a new fashion designer, and it was amazing. Like seeing your design on the runway was definitely a great opportunity, and it was just a mind-blowing moment for me. And I know I went my daughter at the time was 8 months. So imagine having a newborn and doing all of that. But I mean, I showed up, I did it, and it was great. After fashion, next thing I did, I still am, I decided to dabble into real estate. So in 2023, I got my real estate license. And so right now I'm a real estate investor and a realtor, so real estate agent. And so I definitely represent buyers and sellers, and investors in buying or selling their properties. And I've done that for not quite 3 years now, but almost about 2 and some months. And definitely part of the best brokerage in the land, Remax Excellence. Then after that, it's like layers upon layers upon layers. And then after that, I decided to go into cybersecurity. So I'm kind of playing the tech space. So I did my cybersecurity diploma from Lighthouse Lab. I got that last year in March. And then I also have my CompTIA Security Plus, as well as ISC2. I'm certified in cybersecurity. So that I have all the education for that. I haven't really done work in that yet, because I'm just trying to wait for certain things to line up first. So yeah, that's a number of things I do. I also volunteer in church. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I have a wonderful support system. And I always ask people this, like, if you were to come out of yourself and think about what is your modus operandi, what is that thing that like if someone was supposed to see inside your brain, this is your modus operandi. And for me, it is a scripture in the book of Romans. It says that all things work together for good for me. And so, because I know that all things work together for good for me, it doesn't matter. If I feel like I want to do this, I do it. And I do it afraid, and it's okay. Things may not always line up, things may not always work out, but the fact that you put one foot in front of the other, it takes you closer to that goal, to that dream. So personally, some things that I do, like I said, I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to make mistakes, and I rest. I listen to my body. If my body says I'm tired, I rest. And I try to I try to go somewhere every month. And somewhere might not necessarily be travel out of the country or travel out, it could be like a staycation, right? I rest. I find a weekend to rest or 1 week to rest every month, right? And I fill my tank with just my husband, my family. We spend time together. I hang out with my friends. In fact, one of my friends' husbands was like, "Jibs is always saying girls hang out. How about the men?" So I'm like, so I apologize to the men, but I like my girls too. I like to hang out with the girls as well. So you can see, like, I do my nails, I do my eyelashes, I take care of myself, I go to the spa, I take care of my body, I take care of my soul, I take care of my spirit. Now I take care of my spirit, I pray every night. I don't joke with my prayer. Every night I am kabashing at night. I read my Bible every day. I pray to God every day. If I'm driving 30 minutes to Edmonton, I'm praying throughout the journey. So I can tell you that the reason I'm here is not just hard work. Hard work is one thing, because God is not going to come down to do your part, but He will give you grace for that which you've done already. So I'll say I take care of myself, body, look good, smell good, feel good. My soul, I read. Well, I can do better in that area, but I read. And then my spirit, I make sure that my spirit is on fire all the time.
Absolutely. I've had to choose. I don't know if anyone hasn't had that thing happen where it's like you have to kind of pick one. I went through a season where opportunities came that I had to turn down for career mostly. Things that would have taken me out of where I lived, a lot of travel time and opportunities that were, these were great opportunities, but I had to turn it down. You know, sometimes we turn things down, and there could be some resentment that could creep in. Maybe you had to go on mat leave, and while you were away, you know, your colleagues have gotten promotions before you got back, and you feel like you haven't made, like, you know, a really good progression. And then just when you think you're on the upward trajectory again, boom, number 2 comes, and you have to take that break again, right? So there's always going to be those moments, and it's happened with me. For me, like I said, I operate from my core and my core values and what we ultimately want as a family. And when I say we, I'm referring to my husband and myself. So when I'm looking at opportunities and whether I'm going to take something or not take something, I have to ask myself, bottom line, what are my values? Is this contributing, you know, to the value that I have? Is this something that, you know, even if it comes and goes, is it going to impact my family tremendously? And I always put my family first. Not everybody will agree with that, but I think it just will depend on what your values are and what you ultimately want for yourself and what you've decided for your family. So I've had to turn things down because it would have negatively impacted, you know, just the standard of life and the standard of care that we set for our home, right? And when that happens, especially when those mat leaves happen, there's a tendency for resentment to creep in, or that comparison of yourself to other people to creep in. But what I've learned, and I learned this the hard way because I've done it the wrong way, but I've learned the right way to do things now, is I've learned to process everything inside of God, you know, and to really take my pain, my fear, my resentment, and all of the worries just to the feet of my Father, and just to process it there, to say, hey, you know, I would have really wanted to be this, I could have been here, but look, I had to balance it and I had to pick this one. But ultimately, I'm never shaken by that, because I know that God's plans are greater. Even when I've said no to things, my no and his yes is bigger for me, right? So I may not have gotten that next big break or that promotion that I so desperately wanted, but guess what? I'm aligned with my kids. My kids are balanced, regulated, their cups are filled, you know, they're thriving. And for me, when I weigh those things with my values, that always comes out on top. So I feel that that's how I've learned to essentially navigate it, because there's always going to be that thing. But I think the one thing I want women out there to know is don't hide, don't leave those things inside of yourself, because you might think, oh, it's, you know, that one thing happened and you had to, you know, choose your kids, and maybe your spouse went on to do the great thing that they were going to do in their career. Don't bottle those things up. I think talk about it. I think be honest with yourself. Have those honest conversations, right? Those healing conversations, so that, you know, you're not harboring resentment, and then it ultimately impacts your life, and you start to resent your kids or resent your family, you know, for opportunities that you felt like you could have taken and would have taken you further. So I think weigh your values, weigh what matters to you, what's important to you, and process those things, talk about them, have those hard conversations, and see how you can juggle things. Maybe the next time around, maybe your spouse can take the step back so that you can take that step forward. So there's always going to be a delicate dance of, you know, trying to compromise and trying to intertwine your lives for, you know, the outcome that you want.
There were several days that I had to really decide what to do at a difficult moment. And a good example is while working at the bank, my daughter was still young at that time. She was kind of like 5-year-old. And my husband was working on the oil field. It goes 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And I was there with my daughter with no relative or family around in Grand Prairie. And I just had to bring her to work on a Saturday. And I would put her in one of the rooms and give her some toys to, play with. Those were moments where, as a mom, I see the sacrifice we make for our kids and the sacrifice we also make being a career woman. I was working at a bank that requires me to be at the bank on Saturdays. And when my husband is not around and I didn't have a babysitter that was available that weekend, I just had to speak with my manager to bring her to work. I would say I've been lucky to have managers and directors that were understanding, that would allow me to bring my daughter to work and to keep her there till I was done. I'm ever grateful to CIBC for making that happen for me. I remember also when I was just a new mom and my daughter was even now up to 1 year old. CIBC had those special programs for moms where you could use they call it Kids and Company. So CIBC was enrolled in that Kids and Company program, where as a new mom, you could bring your child to that space and they will pay for it. They did that for 1 year. So working with a good organization enables you to navigate choosing between effectively carrying your role as a mom or as a business owner or as an employee. If I never had that support from CIBC, I would probably have chosen my daughter to stay at home with her, to nurture her. But I had that backing and support of a good organization that would pay for 1 year of daycare while I was working. That was the best support at the time I needed it, especially when she was young. But now she's older. I don't have to choose whether picking up my daughter or attending a meeting, which one is important. The meeting would wait. I will pick up my daughter first before any business deal or any business contract. And like I said, I wrap it around all the time. So for instance, in Edmonton, Catholic school closes 12 noon on Thursdays. My schedule every Thursday would have me leaving the office 11:45 to get back to the office 12:30. So I don't book any appointment for that time. That's the sacrifice I make every Thursday just so I can be there for my daughter. I would rather pick her up than have somebody pick her up. That's the time we bond. That's the time we talk about school. That's the time she tells me about her friends. I want to be in her life as much as possible. I want to create memories that she can share with her own kids growing up. I don't joke with that.
Everything I do is part-time, so I'm very blessed. Even though I do so many things, everything I do is part-time. So like, for example, I'm gonna leave here and I'm gonna go pick up my kids from school because they get on the bus. And every now and then I like to just go pick them up from school and just shock them. And in fact, the other day my son was like, "Mommy, I want to take the bus." I'm like, "I'm here, you want to take the bus? What do you mean?" "Oh, I want to go hang out with my friends." I'm like, "You must be joking, and this is the last time I'm ever gonna pick you up." I know I'm very petty. But anyway, so like I love to hang out with my kids. So like my kids, we kind of have like a tech role. During the week, they don't play any games because they got PlayStation for Christmas. So we had to put some really hard rules in place. So they're not playing games all day, every day. So they don't get tech time during the week. So no phones or iPads or games or anything during the week, just on the weekends. But what we do during the week is that as a family, we choose a movie together to watch. So if there's time for a movie, we'll watch a movie together. I absolutely love hanging out with my kids and just having those conversations. I even take my kids out for dates. So I'll be like, "Oh, DG, where do you want to go today? You know, and we can maybe go watch a movie, or we can go eat something, or just jump on trampoline with my son." You know, so there's just all kinds of things. And I think that, of course, that fills me. My children, I love my children so much, and I think that children just have a way of really filling your buckets. That's what I would say. Like, they fill your buckets, and then you have that strength and that energy to go out in the world to conquer the world. So how did that make me feel? Obviously amazing, because my kids are amazing, and I'm amazing too. So
The strength motherhood has given me to become a better leader in my industry is the strength of multitasking. As a mom, you're everything to your kids. You're the doctor, you are the pharmacist, you are the teacher, you're the role model, you are the best friend, you are the companion, you are the driver, you are everything to your child. You are the chef making food and making sure our room is okay and everything goes well. So multitasking is one skill I got out of being a mom, and I've used that in my leadership role. In everything I do, I find it easy to multitask, to be able to attend a virtual meeting while also attending to clients that come into the office, to also making sure that, inventories are being done properly by the manufacturer, or making sure that I ship products that are being ordered on a daily basis. We do everything, because growing a business in your first 5 years makes you take up all the tasks. You are the customer service, you are the one creating the product, you are the one doing the marketing, multitasking. And I got all that from being a mom, from being able to juggle so many things, dropping off at school, picking up from school, getting her for shopping, and doing so many things with her. So multitasking for sure is one skill that I got out of motherhood that is still helping me to be a strong leader that I am today.
Motherhood has taught me a lot of resilience. It has taught me a lot of patience. I'm still not patient, but it's a journey. It taught me emotional intelligence. One day, like in the mornings, my house is chaotic. I have 3 kids. I have to get on the bus in a short period. And I'm that person I'm still can pray for me, please. Time management. So I'm that person that I don't start getting ready until I need to start getting ready. You get what I mean? I play with time a lot. I'm like, it's 1 minute at a time. I'm going to start getting ready now, So we wake up at 7 and I have to be on the bus by 7:50. And so in the mornings, it's so chaotic with my daughter, my son, everybody. Okay, where's your homework? Where's your this? Where's your that? Just a lot of shouting and screaming and running up and down. And that happens. I know it could be better organized, but it is what it is. I remember one day, this was high, usually it's chaotic, but this day was hyper chaotic. And after they went out of the door, they were all gone and they went out of the door. And I was just trying to arrange stuff. In my mind, I'm just like, God, I love this. And I'm like, where did that come from? That was crazy. How can you love this crazy? But I totally love, just doing that and just being a mom. And I think I said this already, it helps me to be compassionate. Being a mom and showing up as a leader in just my community, I just realized that it makes me realize that I'm living in a community where we're raising our kids. My kids could be here in 20, 30, 40 years, right? What kind of legacy am I leaving for them? I remember on city council, we're having a conversation about naming a park, a family name. There's a lot of debates back and forth about, this family, were they good, were they not good, what did my parents do, I want my kids to reap the fruits of my own labor, right? And I'm not saying just financially, but I'm saying even reputationally, right? Look, this kid is this person's child, so therefore let's do this for them because we know they are going to be honorable. So motherhood definitely makes me think twice before I make decisions and in the way I show up. It's made me very resilient. Like I said, they teach you how to be chaotic, how to, how to. Kids try your patience, basically. They ask you they say the darnest thing, right? They ask you the most ridiculous questions. And at the time I just want to scream and be like, shut up! But you just breathe and you answer calmly. Not all the time though, because sometimes I'm like, but it's definitely being a mother has just made me show up as a compassionate leader. That's the long and short of it.
Because of motherhood, I've learned to be more empathetic. I've learned patience more. I was not a very patient person, actually. I realized this, but I've learned patience more. I've learned to be more empathetic, to be more willing to celebrate the little victories, the little wins, because with kids, there's no pressure as your kids watching you, right? Because you model to them. When you see a behavior in your child, think very hard. You probably modeled it. Kids are so special in the sense that they won't do what you tell them to do. They'll do what they see you do, and they'll call you out for it. So I think, that patience and empathy are two big things for me personally that I just felt like, oh, this really shifted me, because I used to be so impatient. I just couldn't understand, if something made sense to me, why didn't it make sense to you? Why are people doing, isn't this common sense? Things like that, right? But then I learned that, no, I couldn't navigate life that way. So even as a leader, or as a business owner, as an employer, I've learned to, I see it flowing out in the way that I treat my employees, because I'm more empathetic. I care, about their lives outside of the work that they do, the important work that they do for me, right? So it's made me, put on a different set of lenses as I navigate life, even as a sister, a friend. So I draw from the strengths and the things that I do for my kids. So learning to be patient with a 3-year-old, learning to celebrate little things. My 3-year-old wants to celebrate the fact that, her doll had a birthday, and I can't just dismiss that. I have to genuinely celebrate it, even though it's okay, but I have to genuinely celebrate it. And it taught me to also be able to pick out people's wins, no matter how little it is, and put that encouragement back into them. Oh, I noticed, or this happened with you, congratulations, that's amazing. So I think it has just really flowed into every other part of my life, where it's okay, I'm a more patient friend, I'm a more empathetic friend, I'm a more empathetic daughter, because sometimes I could be hard on my mom. So those are the flows that I'm seeing. I'm seeing that the lessons that I'm learning as a mom is also flowing out into areas of my life where I can also lead in career and business, with empathy, with patience, and just nurturing people's strengths, right? Because people have strengths and they have weaknesses, and it's being able to call out those strengths to bring out the best out of them for even the work that you do, whether it's as a team member in the office or as an employer. So I've been able to just see that flow from being a mom into being all of the other expressions in my life.
I definitely want my kids to know that their mom was fearless. I want them to know that she didn't let anything stop her. And so if she could, so can I. I want them to know that they come from a legacy of strength. My mother was a very hard worker. She didn't have a university degree, but she was a computer instructor in an organization. And so she taught herself, how to instruct other people. This woman would go to church, pray all night, and wake up at 5 a.m. and she wakes up to go to work by 7 a.m. I'm like, how does someone survive on 2 hours of sleep? I couldn't do that. But I learned a lot of hard work from my mom, and that's why, and people just say, Jibs, you're crazy. I know. It's a good kind of crazy though. I want them to know that in my journey, I wasn't afraid to do anything I wanted to do. I wasn't afraid to stand up for what was right, and that I stood for what was right and what was truth. And I stood for God, right? We're raising our kids to be Christians. We take them to church twice every week. Sometimes I take them to church to go clean, just so that they know that life without God is not a life, So I want to leave them that legacy. I want my kids to be able to say that, oh, my mom prayed for me to get to this point, just like I say about my mom. And so sometimes, when I'm speaking in tongue, my son is like, blah, 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 blah. He's mimicking me. And I'm like, shut up, but basically I think that I definitely want to leave them a legacy of strength, fearlessness, and the power and dignity of hard work. And I mean, not just hard work, but working smart, because some people will just work, and there's no results, right? But the power of working smart as well.
One thing I know my daughter is learning as she's watching me go through this journey is that strength of resilience and my fearlessness in chasing after and executing my dreams. That's one thing she's learning. And I would like her to see me in years to come as a woman of strength that went after her dreams and conquered and won. I want to leave a legacy of her believing she can be all she can ever desire to be. I want her to, in the future, talk about her mom as a woman of strength who left her a big legacy of leadership, of community service, of building businesses that would last, a woman of impact, a woman of influence. And that she definitely is learning and seeing in me. I remember when I wanted to run as city councillor at the city of Grand Prairie, and I made my intention known. She would usually tell me while we are in the car, "Mom, now you need to be extra careful because of your political career. You need to make sure you are stopping even before the red sign. When it's yellow, that's your own red sign. Don't stop the car when it's on red." You know, she had started picking up what was required, the qualities of what a good leader would do. Like, she started pinpointing that, "Mom, running as a sitting councillor makes you a leader and people are watching, so be careful." So she's already seeing that, and I know growing up she's going to talk so fondly of her mom, to say, "My mom was the leader that shaped my life, and I want to be like her too."
This one is a really deep one. It even evokes emotion just even hearing the question before I answer it. You know what? When my kids look back on my life and they think of me as their mom, I don't want them to see a perfect person. I want them to see someone who wasn't perfect, but just lived a surrendered life. I want them to see a woman who didn't have it all figured out. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew the one who did, and I leaned heavily on the one who did. I want them to see a woman who was able to grow, who wasn't afraid to grow, who wasn't afraid of her flaws or her weaknesses, but was able to embrace them, you know, as part of her identity and in her growth to become the person that she was becoming. I want them to be able to stop at any point in life and be like, "Wait, I can start over. Doesn't matter how far I've gone." I want them to see me and remember me in a light that shows that I lived a surrendered life. Most importantly, that I model my faith, because that's the most important part of my life and my core. And a big part of who I am is my faith in God. I want them to see that faith, and I want them to mirror it when they're older. That I didn't have all the answers. I didn't have it all figured out, but I was able to take what I had and live with it gracefully, move forward gracefully, live in love, try even when I was afraid, and just live a life that was fulfilling. I want them to see that even if things were not perfect, I was happy, that I was content, I was genuinely happy, and that I was living a life of purpose, no matter what it looked like.
The legacy I'm hoping to pass to the future generation is the legacy of change maker, community builder, thought leader. I want the new generation of Africans in Canada to become the leader that would make changes, that would bring new innovation, that will invent things that will make the world a better place for us to live in. That's the legacy I'm leaving behind. I've got a track record of data that support the impacts of my leadership. I want the new generation of leaders to also build up projects, create businesses that would have outcome of impact, of changing lives, contributing to the Canadian economy and making the world a better place for us to live and play and work.
I'm someone I want to be everything I want to be. Basically, I don't want to just be a doctor and be a doctor my whole life. No. I want to be a doctor, a lawyer. As a matter of fact, I want to be president, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a business tycoon, I want to be a writer all in one. Yes. But like, you can literally be everything you want to be. And that's why I found the word. It's called polymath, right? Someone who can be everything possible. So I'm going to tell my younger self, keep dreaming, but just don't dream. Take action. Implement the steps. In fact, there are 3 things I always say to people. Number 1, don't settle. Life happens to teach us from experiences. You can only stay here. You can only be this much. You know, from your experiences, you know, you apply to all those jobs and they say, sorry, we regret to inform you. And so we minimize ourselves because of our experiences. So that's my number 1 thing, don't settle. You can be much more than you could even ask, think, or imagine. That's what the Holy Book says. So guess what? Keep pushing. Keep knocking that door. Keep putting one foot instead of the other. I'll tell you something. I got a grant of, I won't tell you the exact amount, but I got a grant for my business for 6 figures. I didn't get it the first time I applied. I didn't get it the second time I applied. I applied 3 times before I got it. But guess what? If I gave up the first time, I wouldn't have gotten it. Second time, I wouldn't have gotten it. But guess what? Even if I didn't get it the third time, I'd have applied again. My point is, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to achieve, if you see that dream and if you have that vision in your heart, keep knocking, keep pushing. That's number 1, don't settle. Number 2, serve. There's the law of seed time and harvest. What you sow, you reap. You sow goodness, you reap goodness. You sow compassion, you reap compassion. But if you sow wickedness, you also reap wickedness. You sow racism, you also reap racism, but maybe in a different dimension, you know. So I think serving is important. We need to serve, and serving is what brought me where I got to. The reason I put my hand up and said, I'm going to run for city council is because I'd served on various boards. I'd shown up on various boards and various committees as a volunteer in my community. And so when I raised up my hand and said I was going to run for city council, they were like, yeah, this person is someone that can represent me because she showed up where she didn't have to. Specialized long-term care for our seniors. Affordable housing for low-income families and our seniors. Downtown River. She showed up. So that's number 2, serve. I'll tell her, serve. Wherever you go, serve. In church, serve. Serve your friends. The Bible says that him who is greatest amongst you must be the servant. So if you want to be a leader, you need to serve. Serve selflessly. And number 3, get a coach or a mentor. So you want to be something great, something grandiose. Who is that person that's gone on that journey and succeeded? I always say that when you have a coach or a mentor, they divide your journey in half. Because guess what? The pitfalls that they avoided, they tell you, oh, that's a pitfall you need to avoid. That's the other one you need to avoid. So those would be the 3 things I'll tell her. Other than keep dreaming, implement, don't settle, serve, get a coach or a mentor.
Wow, 5-year-old Efua, I will tell you that you are enough. Not because of what you do, but because of whose you are. When I think of my 5-year-old self, I feel like I had, fears. You're a child. I was carefree. But then, life starts to bring those fears and experiences start to bring those fears. So the one thing I would want my 5-year-old self to remember is that I was always enough. I didn't need to do more to be enough. I was already enough, just the way that I was, and that the way I was uniquely created and the way that I was uniquely wired. And I would tell her, don't be afraid. Don't be so fearful. Like, live a little. Even when things are not going according to your plan, just trust that God has better plans, bigger plans, and that He's got you no matter what. Even if you make mistakes, He's going to find a way to reroute you to where you need to be. So live a little, smile more, play more, be more carefree. Don't be so afraid of the future. It's going to be okay.
To every mom out there, to that young girl like Ejibola, to that student who is an international student who doesn't understand what the Canadian system is all about, to that new migrant who just landed yesterday to Canada, wondering if this is the dreamland, I want you to realize that even from a place of impossibility, it's possible to dream bigger. Don't be afraid to seek for support, to speak out, to express yourself, and to bring forth that beautiful idea. The world is waiting on you to give expression to your skill. The world is waiting for you to write that novel, to do that documentary. They are waiting for that creative tool. They are waiting for you to pick up that career and be a lawyer just to save somebody's life. Dare to dream bigger.
I remember many years ago, this was actually maybe before I ran for councillor, just around that time. I was having a conversation with someone and I said, I want moms, especially moms, to try to pursue something bigger than themselves, right? Like, don't just be okay with just being a mom. And I remember someone saying, actually don't say that, because some people actually love being moms and they're just okay with being moms. So I'm not here to judge anybody. I just want to say that whatever it is that's in your heart to do, whether it's being a mom, a full-time mom, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what your heart desires, absolutely do it with your full chest. But my point though is, as a mom, let's not let motherhood limit us, especially if you have a dream in your heart, especially if you have a vision to be something much bigger than being a mom. Being a mom is amazing. However, there's much more. You want to be that mom that your kids will look at and be like, that's my mom, because you're proud of you. But we can't do that by just sitting down and folding our arms. We need to push ourselves. We need to push ourselves to be more, connect with people. Like, even just, actually, let me I should talk about a little bit about how I decided to run for city council. This was in 2016. That was the year that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton ran against each other. And I've never been one that was interested in politics, never been. My dad and my husband, very big political people, but I've just never been that person. But that year, there was a very strong pulling for me. And I just got really interested, right? I started to watch all the debates and everything. And so I told my husband that, babe, I'm like really interested in politics. And he's like, why don't you run for city council? And I'm like, what? City what? I'm like, first of all, at this point, I'd lived in Canada for 4 years. So I was technically still a new immigrant. I wasn't even a Canadian citizen at this time. But guess what? I couldn't shake out the feeling, and I started to Google and search, and what are the requirements? I don't even have to be a graduate. I just have to be 18, live be a resident, and not have gone to jail and pay taxes. That's it. I can do it. So the reason I'm sharing that story with you is, it is a desire in your heart. Just take that first step on research. Just even start that. And maybe, just like me, you realize that it's not that difficult. As moms, we need to continue to push forward, leave legacy that our children can be proud of, show up in places people thought was impossible. And that's what drives me. One of the things that drives me is that people always say that, oh, you can't do this. And I always prove them wrong. Like, people told me that, oh, you're gonna write a book. You just write a book for legacy. You can't really make money out of it. I'm like, well, I'm gonna write a book and make money out of it. And I did, and I am. For single women, yes, your Boaz, your man is gonna find you eventually, but while you are waiting, Remember the story of Ruth. She wasn't just sitting idle and just waiting and doing nothing. While you're waiting, build yourself up. Build yourself up for that business, for that career, for that motherhood, for that wife. Build yourself up, learn things, get a coach, speak to people. You know, you're amazing. You're a gift to the world, like my daughter said. You don't need anybody to tell you how amazing you are. You're amazing. God made you in his own image and likeness. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. And I'll just say one last thing. For the sake of legacy, let's just keep pushing, because guess what? Posterity will remember.
To any woman out there who has just maybe been beaten down by life, by experiences, I deeply, empathize. I want you to know that everyone that you see has a story. It's always so easy to compare ourselves in our raw states and our forms to the women that you see out there on the stages, on the podiums, doing all the amazing things that they're doing. But you know what? They have a story too, whether they choose to share it or they don't. And I think our power lies in our stories and not being afraid of where we've been and not being ashamed of where we want to go. So I think you need to embrace every part of you. I feel you can't be complete if you don't embrace every part of you. And when I say every part of you, I mean, yes, that part that you're ashamed of. I mean, yes, that part that you're afraid to say. I mean, yes, that part where you failed. Yes, even that part too. All of those things make you beautiful. We're all beautiful with our scars. Just like we say with the C-section scar, I'm not ashamed because there's a story there, and it's one of the things that make me who I am. So I think we need to start to embrace all of ourselves, like marry every part of yourself. The 5-year-old you, the 20-year-old you, the 55-year-old you now, marry the career woman, the woman who didn't have a job and who was a stay-at-home mom, and now the woman who is like touring the world and traveling and living her best life. Marry them together. All of those versions of yourself are all special. Don't leave any parts out. Nobody gets to tell you what parts of your life are important and what parts of your life aren't. I get to tell my story, and I get to decide what success looks like for me. And that success could look like anything. You don't have to be the president of the United States to be powerful and successful. Even as you're with your toddlers at home and you're singing the ABC songs, that is a ministry right there. That is success right there, because you're raising a generation. And to the woman who is in the boardroom and commanding, all these meetings and all these powerful people and all these powerful policies in government, you're amazing too. So I think all of us, we need to marry who we are as one. Don't leave any parts of yourself out. All of your stories matter. All of your scars matter. All of your scars are important to make you who you are and who you're becoming. So you know what? It's never too late to pause and say, okay, I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to start again. Never too late. My mom is 71 right now, and she always says to me that she has big dreams. And you know what? I'm like, that's amazing that even at 71, she doesn't feel like her life is over or she can't do anything anymore. No, she's dreaming. And if she can dream at 71, you damn well can, at 82 or any age that you are, or at 31 or at 25, doesn't matter. Just make sure that you are one with yourself. Be one with yourself. Don't be afraid of your stories. Don't be afraid of who you are. Don't leave any parts of yourself out. Every part of you is coming together beautifully for who you're becoming.
Okay, well, happy Mother's Day. This is the most beautiful job title. I dare to say that. It's the most amazing job title, and just being a mother is such a blessing. For me, it's just been a very deep journey, and just being a mother of this beautiful children that I'm nurturing their potential, discovering them more and more. So just happy Mother's Day. Kudos to you for all the hard work you do. We see it. And guess what? Those children see it. Those men too, they see it, they know. So thank you, and may God continue to bless you and uphold you and continue to give you strength, because motherhood no easy. but we thank God.
Happy Mother's Day, beautiful woman. Thank you for all the sacrifices you make, the ones that not everyone sees. Thank you for all the little things that you do that make the big pieces come together. Thank you for the love that you so freely pour into others every day, even when sometimes you're running on empty. Happy Mother's Day to you. You matter.
To every mom out there, whether you are an expectant mom, a newly wedded bride, mom in waiting, single moms, I want you to know that your dreams are valid. You are enough. You're unlimited. Despite the situation, whatever you're going through, I need you to know that on this Mother's Day, believe that you can become much more than what your situation is telling you now. Dream bigger and believe in yourself, because the world is waiting for you to spread your wings and to make an impact. Happy Mother's Day.
Whew. This is the second time I'm sitting in front of the cameras for 1909 Media, and I just want to say that Anu and her team are just amazing. I was so nervous at first when we're starting, but the more that I listened to her heart and her vision, it made it so easy to just pour out my heart, pour out my head. I'm so grateful that, you know, you took this vision and you're running with it. Go girl, you're gonna do mighty things. CNN is small, like really, who is CNN? Like, they're little. You're going places. Thank you for just giving people a voice, giving us a place to share our stories, a place where we feel comfortable to open up and be vulnerable with who we are. Thank you for the wonderful work that you do. I love you and I love your team, and I can't wait until the next time that we create magic.
The experience here has just been fabulous. It's going to go with me for a lifetime. I want to see more of Anu's projects being shown, even on the provincial level, to ministers, to the premier. And I know that one day she's going to do a documentary at the House of Parliament. Watch out Edmonton. It's the city of champions, and Anu is definitely one of the champions.
Oh, well, so my experience has been fantastic. The 1909 crew, they showed up and they showed out, and I'm pretty confident that this documentary is going to show up. It's going to be really amazing. So I really look forward to watching it, and shout out to 1909 Production.